So hi everybody and welcome back to C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This video 238, and in this video we continue of course with our exercise. And to start with, we use a shortcut Control ML and Control ML again, and that is collapsing all our code. And now we can go there what is important for us. And we stopped here in main, I think in my case here on top. Yes, that was the last thing what we did. And our choose mode was not finished, right? We have to finish this choose mode function. We have just now what? Let me start fast this program to see where we are. Here I enter my input and we are here, and here we have a problem. The problem is when I enter, for example, a number, there is no problem, it is looping. We have to implement all these numbers here, the options. This is one thing, but there is another problem with my cin, which I mentioned in my last video, that it's a not safe implementation. And what I mean with this not safe implementation is when you accidentally write, for example, letters, then when I press enter, it will loop forever. And this is a problem. And that's why when I jump now into my function here, let's hover with our mouse over it. Let's press F12. It jumps here on top to the function. Let's open this one up. And here is our while loop, which we already created. Here is that what we all did in our last video. And this line here is anyhow ignored all time when I enter wrong, for example, letters instead of numbers. And the reason for that is that there happens an error flag and all this kind of stuff. I want not talk right now because we have to talk about this cin more in detail when we come to this library again. You can see it's again in the standard library, and when we talk about inputs more in general, because in programming inputs is a very, let's say, critical topic, because in inputs can cause big problems, can cause crashes, can cause security problems, can cause all kinds of stuff, which means in future we have to talk about this inputs and input methods and inputs functions and all kind of stuff this differently. But right now you have to know it, you have to realize it. Yes, input can cause problems, and this was a demonstration. When you handle not the input right, it will cause problems. All right. So to skip this part, there are different kind of things which you can make. You can skip the cin function at all. You can see the other thing what we used was getLine, for example. It's a little bit better, but there are also some problems which we have to talk. But right now what we can do is to avoid this. I took one standard thing from the internet, so don't worry if you don't understand this. We just take this one in, write it at the end of this loop here, and put it here in. Let's uncomment this, Control-K uncomment. Let's format this, Control-K format, and now we have it. So you can see the cin here is called, there is a function, built-in function, which is clear, so it will clear the cin. And then there is something like ignore the first 10,000 lines and so on. And yeah, we will talk about this kind of stuff later, but important is this will work, and there are much more to consider normally, but for right now we are concentrating on our linked list insert function. That's why I want to skip over this a little bit and talk this, like I said, in detail more in future. You should just aware that input is all time a danger zone, I would say, because input can cause big problems in many different ways. Like I said, security, wrong inputs, exploits, and crashes, all kind of stuff. All right, here is my input A, and now I type letter. It works now. So that's very good. So we have handled this a little bit. And now we have another problem, and our function here is of course not implemented. So like I said before, we have here numbers which we can choose, but we have to implement this. And what is an easy way to implement this? We already know there are actually different ways to implement this, but one easy way is when you have here something like this. Is a switch. Of course, you can make it with if too, but switch is in this case probably a better solution. let's start with a switch. But before we start, how we start this, we should start with a comment. And here I almost missed again a comment. And like I said, we train to write good code. So let's write here a comment and let's say need for say in work properly. And we will, yeah, that's enough for right now because we have not discussed this one in detail. But it's okay for right now. All right, so switch. We need a switch. Let's what call we this one? Option activation, right? Something like that. We want choose a number and then it should activate this option which we choose. All right, option activation up. We can change the comment in, but right now option activation. All right, and then we start with a switch. We know how to switch, right? So it's a repetition about the keyword switch again. We write here the condition. Okay, what is the condition here? So here is our input, this picked option number, because the user will pick here a number, I hope. And when it's a number, then we have checked this number and then we have just perform an action depends on the number, right? So let's do this. So first of all, switch, here comes the condition. The condition is this number here. Let's use this. By the way, let me show you this not. This was this ignore which I found there so that I not get all time at. Here, this one, let's repeat faster switch statement again. And why I'm repeating this one here is because, of course, we should not forget that we are also learning this documentation here, the CPP reference com, which will lead later us to the original documentation. It's simple. So I hope that you can see here is the statement. You can see we have here normally optional before. Here's a switch. Here is the condition which we use here in optional initial statement, and here is the statement again. Here we have what? There are the cases which we have to use. You can see all the black letters, words we have to use. The gray ones are actually used to here too, but some are optional, some are not. All right. Which with that says I need case, the default is actually optional, but we will use it. And let's see how we use it. Now, this is the syntax which you should be already familiar with because we have already talked about the switch statement, and let's make the switch statement now. Okay, my pick option number is my condition because depends on this number, I will create cases, right? Picked, all right, we have this one. Then we write our body like all time, and then we write the cases. Case 1, in my case I need now case here, and then like it says here we write here the constant expression and then the expression. All right, the constant expression means depends on the condition. This one should be this, in my case it's here the number. Let's start with 1, and then it make a colon, and then what we are using our statement. Important is here you can see they are not using here curly braces for a body. I will use curly braces for a body. You don't have to, but I used because I realize it can cause, I'm not sure if it can cause problems, but this one is the safe way. So you have the body, here are the absolute clear where it starts, where it ends, because depends on how many input you give, it can cause there some the scope problems and something like that. That's why it's all time safe to use this body here, even it is not necessary, I think. All right, with that said, in my first case I will not implement now the other things. I just concentrate here on just the insert because we are right now on the insert part. So let's do this one here, and I skip this one. And what we learned is we can break this one. Why we need this break keyword, by the way, in a switch? You need a break only when you want to stop here. For example, one is selecting 1, and then it should stop and not go on. If you don't use a break, which will work, the problem is it will execute all what is here and then till it finds a break or default. All right, I hope you remember this kind of stuff. So in my case, I write break 1. Let's copy this one because I need here some more. I'm lazy. Let's copy this one. Let's paste this sometimes in. And then let's just change the numbers here. I have here number 2, then I have here number 3, and then I have here number 4 is enough for me, because the other things I will do later, because my number 4 here is my insert. Here I will do something. So the other one, break, but, and let's do the number 4 fast. How we make, before we make number 4 in detail, let's do one more step, because what is the end step? Like I said before, this default here you don't need normally, but just do it in all time. Still, we do it. And why we do it if we even don't need it? The reason for that is sometimes you don't need it and you still should do it even if you don't need it. And the reason for that is this switch can change over the years or something like happen, and this default is all time safe to have. All right, so just keep it so. There are more to it, but if you make a default, even if you don't need it, it's safe. Let's say it this way. All right, with that said, I have here all my default. In my case, I will even need a default. With that said, we have to implement now this one. How we implement this? We have, of course, now let's go back to our 4, which is my insert. I need an insert function. I have made here a dummy function, which is not a real function, which means you just create a function which you can create, but in my case, let's just write here for test purposes std cout. Have to implement this. All right. Of course, that one you can write in everybody here, but I skipped this. But here for test purposes. But how we go on after this one? So the switch statement will select this case 4. Here is our implementation later. This will be replaced. But here is one thing which we have to do. This is a while loop, right? And we don't want after this one it's looping, it's going into this function. This one is finished more or less. Yeah, and with that said, if this is finished, we can actually execute this loop if we want. Yeah, and there are different options probably, but I execute this one now, and you can see this this while loop is dependent on this variable, which I have just to set to true, because as long as it's not true, it will loop. When I set this variable here to true, let's copy this one here, then it will stop. All right, here at this point, I won't make this, so I set here, set it to true. So the while loop will not more looping, and this break will just go out of this switch. And that's cool. And let's make, we are almost finished. Let's one more thing, which is our default. Like I said, perhaps the player entered here some wrong number. And if the player entered a wrong number, then we say just std cout a message wrong number is not. Now let's write here option wrong number. Wrong. I'm too lazy. Wrong number. Please try again. Please read the options, something like that. You can write what you like, but yeah, you know it. All right, please read the options. So we did this. Perhaps this works, and I think that's it for this little choose menu, because after that we have to implement just our insert menu. So let's test this fast, and here we go in. You write shoulder A. First of all, let me write again crap. And you can see here is our output. Wrong number, please read the option. Of course, we should make some new lines so that it looks okay. And let's try now our number 1 first. So you can see number 1 is not implemented. That's why it's looping here. But now let's try our 4, which we made a little bit, and you can see it is continue. Of course, it continues here with crap, because we have, of course, implement all the other things afterwards right. But that's okay. That's for the next video, but it works. And with that said, we can use here perhaps a format so that it looks also very good. Control F, and with that Yeah, I stopped this video. And one more thing, you can, I think here we don't need any comments, it's all clear. Perhaps here, but I think that's okay. All right, with that said, if you have any questions, comments, like all time, write in the comment section and we will continue in the next video. See you there. Bye, good luck, and like all time, have fun and never give up.